Well, after some confusing tracking, managed to find the Nkuhuma lion, and quite amazing, quite fantastic that we did. Found their tracks on Zoe's Road. They went out onto Gowrie Main. They seem to have been walking up and down quite a bit, and a little bit on Philemon's cut line, because there were tracks going first north and south, and then tracks east and west. We're fairly close to the hyena den, but looks like all 8 of them here. Some of them flat in the grasses. Lovely weather for cats. Hopefully they'll be a little bit active. Well, we can only hope. Any stations on Gowrie? Fine, and you, Andrew? I got Nkuhuma's on Philemon's cut line. Yeah, affirmative. Okay, copied. Yeah, we a little bit further west from PCKaya. Interestingly, that Scott had some tracks close to camp, funny enough. Well, we're on Philemon's cut line, not Philemon's dip. So, they were obviously walking around quite a bit earlier this morning. In fact, what was easy was the fact that they were walking around after the rain. They must have been sleeping up somewhere. Once the rain stopped, which was just before 6, I'd say, when they started walking around a little bit, and have probably only just arrived here, not long ago. See if we can change positions a little bit. There's probably going to be vehicles coming from the other side. I want to. It'd be nice if we can position ourselves so we're not looking at the other vehicle when we're sitting watching them. Hello, little boy. That would be fine, I suppose. Cedric, come in. Yeah, they're on Philemon's cut line, Lalapanzi. I think you might have to take first. I've got Andrew and Johan coming in. Doing what cats do, conserving energy. Although today, with this weather, they wouldn't really burn up too much energy if they were moving around. It's hard to tell. He's looking fairly well fed. It's hard to tell with the rest of them. They're looking... Doesn't look like they've eaten recently though. Some of those females that are lying on their sides are looking rather slim. Funny how lions have to lie on top of each other sometimes. They do like contact with each other. There are strong bonds within the pride, but they just have this habit of, when they lie down, they lie on top of each other. I don't see any of the males, the two Matimbas. So that mating session probably didn't last very long. When we saw them mating, I think it was only about a 2-day event before the males moved off their own direction. Fairly good hunting weather, but, well, for one thing, the long wet grasses can hinder them. And the other thing is that in this weather, with this cold wet that the animals are experiencing, I suppose a lot of the animals are in a lot thicker of bush. They're not out in the open much. I think I must also just try and move again, because the angle that I'm at, I'm just getting in the way of the camera. So let's try a different angle. Sorry, welcome.
Those are a different slide if you're right?
Oh yeah, we were expecting you here. Where did you have sticks?
Crossing over there, Philmont's cut line with Gary May, but two symbols up and down. It looks like the last track actually went, it was coming out north.
I thought it was their tracks there.
Yeah, all the way coming from the open area last night. They always did the drive.
Yeah, sorry, Alex. I was just liaising with Cedric. Who was that question from? The darker the main. Georgian in Illinois. Look at that cubs, right? It's quite cold. Got its head on mom. If that is mom, or if it's older sibling. Oh, cold little cat, that one. Georgian in Illinois was asking is it true that the darker the mane, the healthier the lion? Not necessarily. I think to a large extent the darker manes are genetic. And something to do with age too, and of course the area that they're from. I suppose to some extent there could be some correlation, but not to my knowledge. I'll have to look into that. I know that there are areas where the darker mane lions are preferred by the females. Have been shown, I think, in areas like the Serengeti, where it appears that there is a preference for the darker mane males when it comes to female preferences. Johan, come in. Oh, you can approach the lock. Andrew, when you get close, I'll move out for you. The skinny little girl. Sorry, Alex, I didn't copy that. Oh, Ray. Morning, Ray. Colorado. Ray was saying a seen lion rolling in elephant dung, or buffalo dung rather, and making sounds and seeming like he enjoyed it. Is there a reason for that? And well, they do to a large extent try and mask their scent. The common practice, we've seen leopard do it, lion do it. It's something that predators do, try and mask their scent, try and get the scent of their prey all over them so that they can maybe try and get a little closer. The lion, especially in this weather, animals do have a very strong smell, different to when it's very dry. And supposedly helps them get closer to their prey. What? Okay. Got special greetings from South Africa, from Arathusa to New Zealand, to Shanae and Diane. Just to let you know, Sid's here with us in the sighting, and saying hello, sending out a hello. You know, one of the things is we've had some very hot temperatures, and a lot of that has been the precursor to, or that precedes this weather that we've just had or are having. And for the animals, it's very difficult for them to adjust to the temperature the way we can by just putting on pullovers or jackets or jerseys. For them, it is quite an adjustment to make. As you can see, that cub is feeling very sorry for itself, trying to curl up as tight as it can. And it's not cold, but it would be, I mean, it would be cold and damp for them. They probably haven't dried out much since the rain. I think the older ones can adapt a little bit easier than the youngsters. Good morning to Judy, who's in Texas. Judy's asking about the lioness that was killed last week. We had an incident where some lion was seen feeding on the carcass of a lioness, and we assumed that they killed her and were then eating her. It appears that it was her. We haven't been able to locate the ninth cat from this pride. So we can surmise that it was one of the lionesses from here. I think it was one of the youngsters. Morning, Doug. Doug's in Connecticut. Would like me to elaborate on saying that the wet grass hinders the lion when they hunt. Well, we're at the time of the year, so we're sort of closing up our wet season, end of summer, so the grasses are probably almost at the tallest, so of course it is dense. When the grasses are dry, the leaf blades themselves tend to fold up a little bit, makes it easier to move through the grasses. But now when it is wet, leaf blades of the grasses are as flat and open as they can be, and being wet, it's harder to move through. I mean, it's a known fact that wild dog in particular find it harder to hunt in the height of summer, towards the end of summer, when in the wet season, especially when tall grasses do get wet. Wets the coat, it slows them down. Of course, that would obviously do the same thing to the prey species, but it changes the dynamics a little bit. I lost my kick beetle again. losing click beetles. Rick and Susie are asking about this cub, and I'm just looking at the other one on the other side of this female lying down. They're both looking a little bit skinny. As close as they might be as a pride, when it comes to feeding, these two little ones are probably getting the last. Sorry, I was just listening to the radio. They probably get pushed around quite a lot in a kill situation around the carcass. They're dominated by the older cats, and so they obviously maybe don't get as much as the adults do. Of course, the only way we would know that is if we saw them at the start of a kill. Unfortunately, lately we've only seen them at the end of kills when they have been fairly well fed. Obviously, if they've killed something big enough, there's enough to go around. So it could just be that at the moment, looking at a couple of these flat cats, there's a lioness there that's also looking very, very skinny. But it's only sort of the stomach that's hollow, not so much the condition of the cats. There's a little bit of a hip bone showing on that cub that's facing away from us on the far right. The conditions can change after a kill. Just then, of course, looking at her, complete opposite. She's looking very healthy, this old girl. Sometimes parasite load can make their condition deteriorate quite fast, especially on youngsters. An important thing for these cats as a social group is the grooming of each other that takes place to help rid of ticks and parasites. was looking at her. She might have a tick on the top of her left ear, but when she was cleaning earlier, she's looking pretty free of flies and ticks. Interestingly, when a lioness is pregnant, there's something about her blood that changes, that makes her less susceptible to parasites. See, now she could decide to get up and move, and then they'd all have to follow her. I don't know if she's the alpha, but could be that if the alpha decides to go somewhere, that the whole pride will then follow. I'm not too sure if I got the question right, Kathy, Tennessee. Why would lion allow each other to clean each other's faces?
Or do they allow?
Do they allow? Like domestic cats?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what it was. Yes, they do. Actually, it's quite unusual that domestic cats, technically speaking, are, I suppose, originally solitary. They were, if you have to take their lineage back, domestic cats, I suppose, were once solitary wild cats. I'm not saying feral, because they would have come from, maybe the African wildcat would have been maybe one of the origins of domestic cats. And the African wildcat is pretty much a solitary cat. And how domestic cats put together in a situation, in the domestic situation, almost form like a pride and do become quite social. Allo grooming is what we call it, when cats groom each other, or when animals groom each other. And very important in terms of the social bond of the group. It I suppose in a way cements that bond. It strengthens the bonds between individuals. And of course it keeps the pride healthy, because without being groomed by another cat, the parasite load on the back of the ears, the back of the head, places where a cat can't get to them themselves, can hinder the cat, can make the condition deteriorate. You're welcome, Andrew. So it's important from that aspect to keep the pride healthy, and of course to keep their social bonds or their familial bonds very strong. Okay, well, what we're going to do is I'm going to sit here, I'm going to stay here for a while and see these, watch the cats and see if anything develops. And in the interim, while we're waiting for these cats to decide to do something, if they're going to do something, we're going to go and see. Scotty's got something for you. We're going to cross over to Scott.